It's the wrong podcast, bro. Go and go Birds or something.
Yeah, I'm gonna head out and go over there, hang out with those guys. Go Birds.
What just a confluence of my new life, sitting at a Giants and Jets draft party in the corner, watching the Sixers game with no sound, like a fucking idiot.
Oh. It's just an hour of me exhaling.
One fan listener I did not recognize him, comes up to me, looks at me, obviously recognizes me, looks up at the window, looks up at the screen to see what I'm watching. He goes, "Of course." He goes, "Love the station though." I'm like,
Yeah, of course.
Okay.
This is
Do I
me
have
breathing.
everything?
Me exhaling ASMR.
It's what the people want.
That's what they need.
All right.
We all need
Let's
it.
do it. We ready? What do you think, CJ? Yes, CJ says go. The Rights to blah, blah, blah. Maybe I need to exhale. The Rights to Ricky Sanchez podcast is presented by DraftKings Sportsbook. Sign up for DraftKings Sportsbook by using promo code RTRS. Is brought to you by, no, I don't think that's right. Is it Big Barker? Yeah. Big Barker Therapeutic Dog Beds. Get yours at bigbarker.com/Ricky. LL Pavorsky Jewelers, where Rights to Ricky Sanchez listeners go and get engaged. And Briggs Auction, the official auction of the process. Go to briggsauction.com/Ricky. Maybe you should have found a fill-in for me tonight. On the show tonight, the outcome was never in question. We never had a doubt. Just simply waiting for the Sixers to beat the Toronto Raptors. I, for one, was never nervous about this. Before we get going, I'd like to thank DraftKings for accepting our very silly idea of our same-game parlay being the emotional hedge today, which was, I think, Harden under 20.5, Embiid under 26.5, Siakam over 22.5, and Raptors money line. The emotional hedge wins. The Sixers win the series. Also would like to plug, Mutlu and I are doing a live Carl Landry Record Club in the middle of a Mutlu show at World Cafe Live, which is a lovely venue in Philadelphia, May 20th. He'll do a whole show in the middle. We'll pick out some of the songs we like best from the albums we like best from the pod, and he'll cover them and do a sitcom thing as well. He knows all the 80s and 90s sitcoms. So that's May 20th. Go to mutlusounds.com or carllandryrecordclub.com for tickets. They're only $15. Hope to see you there. Without any further ado, Amos and the chef.
We were right, y'all. We were right. Even when it went wrong, we were right. We was right, y'all. We were right. So say the name. Say the name. We were right, y'all. We were right. Even when it went wrong, we were right. We were right, y'all. We were right. So say the name. Say the name. Say the name.
Welcome to the Rights to Ricky Sanchez podcast. I'm Spike Eskin, along with a guy who, like the rest of us, is thankful that Mike Muscala hit that three and the Sixers got Tyrese Maxey with the 21st pick. He said, just save the season. That is one Mike Levin. What a b-ball Paul game.
Incredibly necessary. Just such a necessary. They won by fucking 35 in their house. Raptors fans were just chirping all series long, being weird about Embiid, being very weird. I don't mind booing the other team's best player. That's fine, but like weirdly, like feeling personally attacked. Like every time one of their players ran into him and like got hurt, they were like, it's intentional. Like it was just like a little too much of that. And so I'm glad to I'm so glad he hit the airplane in Toronto. That kicked ass. It's good. Like, look, we called Embiid out for last podcast. I think
He deserved it
because there was a really bad game, and he's the leader of this team, and the effort wasn't there. But the effort was there tonight. They kicked ass. They advanced. Sixers in 6, like I predicted from the beginning. No, it's not true. But I'm happy to take this fucking win, get the fuck out of Toronto, and move on. This was really nice.
The end of the day.
Cathartic.
Yeah, I mean, really, the end of the day, this wasn't a series. Well, I don't know. Okay, I'm bouncing back and forth. On one end, they were up 3-0, shouldn't have come to this. On the other end, something that I did say, and we talked about on the last podcast, they were, when they were up 3-1, they were a free throw away from it being 2-2, and this was a series that we all thought was going to be tough. So at the end of the day, it was tough. I think that the truth is what happens after this helps define what this was, right? Like if they go and they beat the Heat and they end up in the Eastern Conference Finals, then all of a sudden this looks like a series was like, hey, the Raptors were supposed to be tough. The Sixers persevered, yada, yada, yada. They go down meekly to the Heat, then this series looks a lot worse. But I got to say, like, for a team in the Raptors who I think were probably at very close to the end of like their energy, right? Like to come back from 3-0 takes everything all the time. And they put in a great first half, and that Maxey run really just, it made them realize they just didn't have the energy for it. And it was like, it was so important, and it was so, I thought, appropriate that it was him, given the number of times that we've said that he was going to have a larger role than a 21-year-old would typically have. And he brought it, man. Like they could not keep up. A super long, super athletic team that is all over the place all the time, could not find him, could not locate him, could not stop him. And I think that, I know it's a 35-point win, but to me, that like 6 minutes of the game is the difference between it being a 35-point win and a down to the wire game, really. Like,
yeah, I mean, it was a close game. It was a close game at half. Like it was a 1-point game at half, and then the third quarter they just fucking pounded them. They pulled away early, and it was because of Maxey. A lot of that. Like I thought the first half, it was like, man, Toronto was hitting a fuckload of tough shots. Everything was contested. There was no easy looks there, aside from like offensive rebounds, which obviously there were too many of those. They had 15 offensive rebounds. I thought the Sixers played really well, and eventually it evened out and regressed to the mean, and they started missing shots. I thought going to zone was smart. Doc went to zone a bunch of times, and that slowed them down a little bit. But they just really Gary Trent hit a ton of shots over Maxey, which without Fred VanVleet in the series is the only guy Maxey can cover, and that's a tough cover for him just size wise. And then Siakam hit a ton of difficult shots early on. That's why the game stayed as close as it did. But Chris Boucher is obviously the best player in the world against us. But yeah, they just became a train in the third quarter, and that's exactly what we needed them to. It's what we wanted them to do in game 5, which they never did at any point. They never got strung any good plays together. And in game 3, they just finally fucking did it, and it looked great, and it was thrilling, and they put this game away pretty early. I was not going to say anything. Look, we've seen Doc Rivers, we've seen Sixers, we've seen the Raptors, enough, too many of these kinds of things, and I'm like, people were upset that Embiid didn't get taken out until 4:30 or 4 minutes left in the game. I'm like, I don't give a shit. Let's win this fucking game. Let's close out this goddamn series, and let's not take any chances. And that kicked ass. I mean, that whole thing just kicked ass. It was Harden played excellent. He was excellent. Maybe the best game he's had as a Sixer.
How about that
plus
dunk?
38. The dunk was sick. I thought he distributed really well. I thought it was probably his best. He had 15 assists to 3 turnovers. Just really got Joel a bunch of easy looks. That's why Joel ended up with 33 points on 18 shots. It was a really good, from your best players let's say your starters. Tobias played great. Danny hit the shots he needed to hit. We'll get to Danny in a bit, obviously. Embiid was punishing and came to life again on the defensive end. Maxey had a ton of great shots, huge shots from deep and turning the corner finally.
By the way,
Harden orchestrated the whole thing. It was just a really good, like, the starters did exactly what they're supposed to do, and they all finished a plus 20, plus 38. Like, those numbers are gaudy numbers for a starting unit that played that many minutes. That's an impressive win for them.
Something you mentioned about Embiid coming to life, I actually, in the first 5 to 7 minutes of the game was pretty concerned because it looked like the Raptors were going right at him and it was working. Yeah. And there was one particular
first 2 plays, Scotty Barnes right at him.
Scotty Barnes right into his chest, know? And there's certain things that Scotty Barnes should be able to do, Joel Embiid, right? He's smaller, he's quicker. If he went around him, it would be one thing, but Scotty Barnes shouldn't be able to, like, just lower his shoulder and push Joel Embiid back, and he did it. And I was like, just honest speaking, I'm watching it and I'm just like, I don't know if this dude's up to this tonight, and they did show resolve, but I still think it comes back to that fucking Maxey run, man. Like, it was, from my perspective, it was just like a bomb. It was not that I'm not saying he should be a 6 man, but it's like that thing that happens when a guy comes off the bench and just obliterates you out of nowhere, and it makes a huge difference in a short amount of time. So just
when he's going downhill, they're just paying attention to him so much. Even when he doesn't get all the way to the rim, like, he's so fast and quick with the ball, and he can score from so many impressive, like, a package of finishes around the rim, whether it's the floater or the floater off the glass, up and under. Like, he gets into that, like, tight little window right by the basket, even though he's short. Like, guys can't have a tough time blocking that because he's using the rim as protection. He's just really good. And then when he's stepping into threes confidently, which he did, like, from the, like, one of the first couple plays of the game, he stepped into a 3 from, like, 28 feet, and it was like, okay, like, that is what we're doing. That is the confidence we're bringing to this game. He was 5 of 12 from 3 in a closeout game on the road.
He shot 12 threes, bro.
12 threes, 5 of 12 from 3, closeout game on the road.
It's wild.
25 points, 8 assists. With Harden here, I bet that's the most assists he's gotten since Harden's got here. In the game they played together, they just, like, they kicked ass. He was great. He was huge. The energy he displayed, just like, I've let him push in transition all the time. And then there was the play that, he had a couple threes in that stretch, but the one that stood out of just, like, he's feeling it, which is just a delight, was he's, like, dribbling around. He kind of loses the ball. His handle wasn't, like, that loose. And all of a sudden he just, like, found it and just got to his 1-2 and stepped into a 3, and it went in. And it was like, oh, this is special. This is a special run. And it feels good to just, like, rip their fucking hearts out. And he was huge. He was enormous.
Briggs Auction is a sponsor of the Ricky. They are in Garnet Valley, which is Delco, 4-generation family-owned and operated auction house. What can you get at Briggs Auction? Pretty much anything. I've seen amazing collectibles there that I've wanted. I bid all the time at Briggs Auction. I get outbid all the time. You can download the app, briggsauction.com/Ricky. Collectibles, but also, like, furniture. Right now, spring is here. You might need patio furniture. You don't want to wait 6 months because of, delays in furniture creation and shipping, which happens all the time when you buy it. Briggs Auction, you go there, you bid on it, you get it right away. You pick it up whenever you want, by appointment or on Saturdays. Briggs Auction right now, right this second, there's an auction that goes off tomorrow, the 29th. So if you're listening to this on the 29th, you can go and scroll through all the lots. I'm telling you, from home furnishings to collectibles to antiques to all that kind of sports to music, all that. briggsauction.com. And every 2 weeks, we do a giveaway at briggsauction.com/Ricky. All you got to do is put in your email. That's it. Go to briggsauction.com/Ricky. Once again, we will give away another Tyrese Maxey card and a Ricky t-shirt right now. Go to briggsauction.com/Ricky. As I mentioned, pickup is easy by appointment or on Saturdays. If you want it shipped, they don't ship it, but they work with several shippers that can ship you the furniture. I'm telling you, go look at the auctions. It's wild. And if you're downsizing, you want to put an estate auction up there, send an email to info@briggsauction.com, briggsauction.com. I was on a radio station in Toronto this morning, and it let me know how close we were to true embarrassment, as they were loose. Like I think most Raptors fans did not see the series going this long after it was down 3-0. And they asked me, "Hey, which quote concerns you most? Doc Rivers not taking responsibility, Joel Embiid talking about his thumb, or Joel Embiid talking about the lack of aggressiveness from Harden?" And like all three of them came crashing down on me, that I can't believe all of these quotes were coming like within a 48-hour period. And it was at that moment that I realized just how ugly this would be if they blew the series.
Oh yeah. Yeah.
And we've seen a lot of ugliness, Mike. Like we've seen almost exclusively ugliness, more ugliness than,
Yeah.
I don't even think we would be prepared for being the first team in history to blow a 3-0 lead. Like the quotes afterwards and
in many ways I've been preparing my whole life for it, but I don't think that it would have been good. No, for sure.
I would just like
part of me, because like that's what we said last podcast, and maybe it was the AU podcast. Like playoff series, they take so much of your life. It feels like so long that you're playing one team over and over again, that each game feels like several games in one. So if the Sixers had just won 2 games at home, say they lost both games in Toronto, and then won the next 2, you'd be like, great series, feeling good. But because they went up 3-0, and then the specter of losing and lost 2 in a row, and all of a sudden it became like the pressure of like, could they fucking do this for real? Then it became more miserable. So like the order of the games you win, I think, has an impact on how the series went. But the fact of the matter is, the Raptors were not fully healthy this whole series. So like that's a definite factor in it. But like the Sixers were the better team. They pummeled them in a few games, and they fell asleep in a couple games. And we know that the Sixers team has that capability. That's my concern with them, is that like too often they do fall asleep. Too often they do like take it for granted and assume that they can sleepwalk in. They have a very high opinion of themselves. And maybe that's because like they know the heights that they can reach, but like they have to be fully engaged to do it, and they just fucking don't sometimes. But overall, beating this Raptors team in 6 without Matisse, like it's a tough matchup for them. And there's just so many athletic 6'8" guys, and the Sixers have arguably none of those kinds of things. They have essentially none, 0.
None.
And I love Tobias, and he's been excellent, and he had a great series. Tobias, this is the best series of Tobias's life. I love Tobias. If he plays like shit for the rest of his life, I am determined to remember this series and look upon him fondly, because this was an excellent, excellent, excellent series. 11 rebounds tonight, by the way. No turnovers. Like
from
plus
Tobias.
29. Just great. 3 for 8 from 3. 3 for 8 from 3. Tobias. Love him. We'll get to him later. But like, I think ultimately they did what they had to do, and they took care of business. And even in Van Vliet getting hurt allowed the Raptors to play even more havoc on defense. And then it just required like surgical precision from Harden to like manipulate everybody. And I think that was the big difference in the game, is they kept getting easy buckets. They kept getting easy looks. And sometimes they missed. It happens. Sometimes they didn't get the call or whatever. It happens. But like, the Raptors were taking very, very tough shots because they didn't have a point guard. And then Doc adjusted and started doubling Siakam, which I actually didn't like at first. I was very anti-doubling Siakam. It's like, you're doubling him so high up, he can easily pass the ball and get an easy look out of it. But they have, without Van Vliet, Siakam is their best other creator. And then it was like Scotty Barnes taking a bunch of just like unassisted jumpers. And you're like, I'm pretty fine with this. And their offense fell apart. The Raptors scored 36 points in the second half. And just like, it was a well-coached game. They fucking ripped their hearts out. I'm happy with everybody involved. Yeah.
I'm trying to figure out where to go from here. Do you want to talk about Danny?
Well, let me finish with Harden, because I think I do think this was a huge passing game for him, and I think that better since game 1 he hadn't really like taken charge of manipulating the defense, and I think he really like chess moved it in a Chris Paul type way tonight. I thought the dunk was huge. The like finishing at the rim a bunch. He wasn't hunting for fouls. He went to the line 6 total times, but he got like a bunch of good looks for himself and for teammates. I thought he was just determined to do it. And then the few massive step backs, which were big, including one where OG clearly landed Didn't let him land. Like NBA referees are just hopeless. Like you're gonna call like Embiid got elbowed very clearly. That's a flagrant. How many times have we seen Embiid get that? Whatever. It doesn't fucking matter. They won by a million.
It's pretty fucking hard to do though when you're standing there with those guys. Like, don't you think it's like sort of an impossible job?
Not when you're.
Do you think
like go to the replay and can like look at it and be like, well, he Siakam very clearly like targeted him with an elbow.
Do you
and he
think
was playing frustrated? Like the context of the game made it very clear that was him going after Embiid, who he was frustrated by.
Crazy question. Do you think they could officiate it better if they had a couple of guys on the court to actually say what the fouls were, but just have people watching on screens to actually say what happened rather than on the court?
Probably,
right?
Yeah. And I think a lot of the times they just like blowing that little whistle.
Yeah.
Just have a good time. Just love blowing the little whistle. I did this to Alyssa. Alyssa had a game 2 nights ago, and I was chirping at the refs, and they weren't very happy about that. But inherently, if any refs listen to this podcast, by the way, I do want to have a ref on this offseason. But if any refs listen to this podcast, we're not. We don't have to get along. I don't respect you. You're not my people. I'm not a ref guy. So my nephew is an umpire. Different situation. I think it's a little bit more forgivable.
Huh.
But I still don't like him very much, even though I love my nephew.
Fair enough.
Embiid.
Yeah.
This was the best shooting game of the series for him by a lot, I think. He didn't hit any threes, and I still look, honestly, hitting that step back three at the buzzer might have been the worst thing that ever happened to him because he's like, I can make this all the time.
Yep.
And it's like, buddy, you can't. Every end of shot clock situation doesn't need to be you getting to that foul line extended for like a step back three. It just doesn't need to be it. We can do something else. So that's frustrating. But I thought his touch was really, really nice on jumpers. Just getting to his spots, even when he got fouled, like little hook shots, little like getting just like I thought he did his work early, which we were saying last podcast that he wasn't doing. He was catching the ball 30 feet out and then having to do a ton of dribbling with them around him. So I thought that he got better post position, and then Harden rewarded him for that. I thought that was nice. Did you notice? I know you were watching the game without volume, but did you notice that like the substitution pattern changed for Embiid?
No, that is one thing. I always say that I'm not listening to the TV, right? I say that the announcers, I'm not paying attention to them. When you have no volume at all, which is how I was watching it, you miss the fucking announcers. That's one thing I'll say. So I did not. Or even
like crowd sound. It's not just announcers. You know what I mean?
Crowd sound and telling you sometimes you don't know what the fuck is going on. Like what are they reviewing? Like what's going on here? So I didn't notice the substitution. I noticed Furk in the fucking first quarter.
Yes,
but that's the only thing I noticed that was different.
So I think that they were in most of this series. It had been like Embiid playing essentially a full first quarter, like 10, 11 minutes. Maybe they'll sub B-Ball Paul out later on. But I think B-Ball Paul came in like 6 or 7 minutes into the quarter. And then he had another stint in the second quarter. So I think the move was, let's get Embiid more little rest stints so that he's not tiring himself out for a longer time and like working himself into like ineffectiveness, which I agree with. I think it's a smart move to not have like, okay, here's a 4 to 6 minute of game time. I guess more like 4 or 5 minute of game time rest period for Embiid, where like we have to survive all of it. It's more like, all right, let's do 3 minutes here and we'll do 3 minutes again in the next quarter. So I thought that was good. The jumper was great. I thought he was just like in a nice rhythm. He had a great help block on Achua, a couple good blocks that game. I think he had 3 blocks this game. He had 2 blocks all series, which is not like him, even though he mostly just does like deterring them. I just thought it was good. I thought he was physical. I thought he was imposing. I thought he pissed the hell out of the Raptors. Boucher grabbed his ankle and didn't get called for anything. Like that seemed insane to me. You're reviewing it and you're not seeing that, whatever. Refs are bad. But overall, this was like a Joel and Harden impose their will on things, and Maxey and Tobias like find their ways to like either step into threes or just fucking go downhill on everybody. It was just like a very simple game plan of like, we're either going to be hitting open threes or we're going downhill on you. And I thought that everyone executed that game plan really well.
Were you pro airplane or anti airplane?
Oh, 100% pro. He didn't have his full heart into it, I will say. He
no,
didn't fully
he
go
wasn't
into it.
sure about it. He wasn't sure, I think.
But the original airplane was in Philadelphia, wasn't it? Or
Correct.
Am I misremembering?
It was. Yeah.
So that's like he had the like juice behind him there. And I think that they were fucking with him in that series and the rest of the time. And he was like, I'm gonna give it to you here. And they were just like being dicks to him all series long, which is their right. It's totally fine. But then they were a lot of fuck Embiid type of thing. And he was doing the like, I can't hear you. Why aren't you talking anymore? That stuff. It was, look, Embiid getting into like long drawn out, drama with other players or other fan bases. I'm not really into that, but like in the heat of a game, like absolutely, I want him to be like he is fueled by that 100%. He said it. You can tell, like he is a petty man, and I love him for it. So like, keep doing it. Like pick it up and like yeah, the Raptors a couple years ago, that was the worst loss of like any of our lives. That shot will be with me forever. So anytime Embiid can go over there and fucking stomp you out in your own house, like absolutely, he deserves like this. What is this, win graciously? What are we talking? Like absolutely, they're like saying fuck Embiid all thing long. Like there's people on Twitter, like respected fucking reporters, being like clothesline him and like calling for him to be like guillotined or something like that. People took it very, very seriously. So he can absolutely have fun. So absolutely, pro
Raptors folks,
airplane, 100%.
Raptors folks did get pretty edgy during this.
They
series.
got weird. It didn't. I think every fan base fucking it like sucks generally.
Sure,
I think it's just fans
sure.
in general are not good as like a full
But
full.
they got
entity.
intense.
But they got like there were like a couple people, like a few examples of just like what calm down. It's fucking fine, and do more hating yourself. I think that's what other fan bases don't do that Sixers fans and Philly fans in general do. It's just like you should feel like you shouldn't just feel pride all the time.
Oh,
You should feel like shame and these fucking losers a lot.
yes.
And they don't, and I don't think enough fan bases have that.
When we posted the emotional hedge same game parlay, people were like, is this really who we are? How could? Yes,
Absolutely.
yes. This
I
is
bet the Hogs
exactly.
I bet the Hogs in Game 7 because it's like
Yes.
I'm happy to lose money if the Sixers win this game.
Yes, this
But
is precisely
there
who we are.
needs to be we have to balance this out with our fucking psychosis for sure.
100%. I'm gonna ask you about Danny Green right after I talk about Big Barker dog beds. We got an email today, a sad email, but I want to read it because I want to give respect to it. Maxwell is a lab from Fort Dodge. He is a processed pup. Slept on a Big Barker dog bed. Got hit with a pretty sad sickness at 10 years old, and he crossed the Rainbow Bridge. So we want to send our love to Dave, Maxwell's dad, his dog sister Millie, who inherited the bed, and love to all of Maxwell's family. While Maxwell was sleeping, and the photo is amazing. I'll put it on the Instagram right after this. Big Barker dog beds are the only true dog bed. At that draft party tonight, I was talking to somebody about how, when we talk about Big Barker dog beds, how I convince people to buy Big Barker dog beds. And it's an honest thing, but I say, if you love your dog, you will care about your dog's health. Your dog's health is how happy and healthy and comfortable your dog is. If you care about your dog's health, you will get your dog a Big Barker. Go to bigbarker.com/Ricky. Bigbarker.com/Ricky. You get the Big Barker dog bed and the processed pup patches. You may ask, well, why are you saying that if I love my dog, why are you talking about the dog's health, all that with a bed? Well, because this is the only real dog bed on the market, engineered by experts to support your dog's joints so your dog's health stays healthier for longer. Younger dogs stay vibrant. Older dogs, as they start to get that creakiness that we all get when we get older, that arthritis, that joint stiffness, it helps them. Look at the bed. See the difference. Just look at how supportive and far off the floor the dog is. This is the only real bed. Bigbarker.com/Ricky. You send us a photo of your dog on the bed with the processed pup patches on it. We'll put them in the processed pup gallery like so many dogs are. There's a 10-year warranty The foam doesn't flatten, or they replace it for free. By the way, Rebel, of course, sleeps on a big Barker. He has 2 of them, one downstairs, one upstairs, in case he wants to take a nap. 1 year at-home trial. If you don't like it, if your dog doesn't like it, full refund, and they even pay for the shipping. Handmade in the USA. Big Barker dog beds. Have you ever seen a player who, like, it's so hard to describe the Danny Green experience.
Yeah. It is at equal times being like one of the most composed, veteran, stabilizing forces as a role player in the NBA and maybe in NBA history. And also for like 2 or 3 plays a game doing the wildest shit you've ever seen in your life. Like, he had 4 threes in the first half, huge, including a step back that made me groan. Something,
but it went in.
A sound that never came out of my body before. It was a groan from the stomach. It was like a stomach up groan.
It was in the corner, right? Cornerish.
Yeah, and it went in still. Great. But like, he gets a huge steal, and like, all you got to do is just like hold the ball, or like take a couple dribbles and then like chill out for a second. And you could see him, like, he takes a couple dribbles and he's like, I should stop. And then he's like, no, I shouldn't. I'm an NBA player. I'm Dan Green. I fucking win a bunch of championships. You think I can't dribble down the length of the court with 2 guys near me? Of course I can. No, he can't. No, he can't. He just straight up can't. I honestly don't think if anyone was around him, if Danny could actually do that on the court by himself. I don't think he's capable of doing that at this point. How does he keep doing this? Who does he think he is? He's not Mikal Bridges. He's not Paul George. I don't know what does he want to be? I really don't understand. It would be so nice to be like, okay, this is the things you don't do. And I'd be like, all right, great, I don't do them. Cool. We love the things he does. But then occasionally he does some of the stupidest things you've ever seen on a court. And it didn't hurt them tonight, but it is a very singular experience watching this man play with his little load in his pants and his occasionally misfiring brain.
It's almost like it's so hard to describe. It's almost like you're looking at a 2K game, and like one of the players in the 2K game is playing a completely different game than any other player on the game. Like, he makes decisions that are so fucking crazy. Like, so crazy. Yeah. They don't make any sense at all.
It's a glitch for sure. I used to play, you said 2K, college sports or college hoops 2K7, 2K8, which obviously shout out Ricky O'Donnell and the Western Illinois Leathernecks. I played that a ton with my friends in high school and like freshman year of college. And there would just be occasionally a guy where you're dribbling the ball and then the game just makes you like kind of like melt into the earth. He just falls over and just like the ball goes awry and you're just doing it. And it's just like, that's just the Danny Green experience. Danny Green, who was in that game, by the way. It is a unique time, but he was great aside from that.
Well, he hits huge shots. He hits huge shots. He has big balls. The
pump fake and the blow by, he can go up in like little spaces. He's an extremely helpful player, which more helpful than he has any right to be at this stage of his career with how many miles are on those legs, on those weird ass legs.
It's almost like I never want to watch another Sixers game with Danny Green on the Sixers, but I also never want to watch another Sixers game without Danny Green on the Sixers.
That's the conundrum, the Danny conundrum.
Yeah.
Tobias, we talked about him a little bit.
Yeah.
But really, really, this was a full series in which he did exactly what he was supposed to do. Every time.
What do you think it took for him to finally like do all this? Is it like the panic of Harden arriving? Just, and by the way, even it wasn't a loose ball, but wrestling a ball away from Boucher under. Yes. It's almost a loose ball. It's not a loose ball, but it was almost a loose ball.
I'll count it.
What do you think like triggered this? Because it is a noticeable difference, not just in the playoffs, but like the 3 weeks before the playoffs. That it seems like everything that we always wanted him to do, all of a sudden at 29 years old or whatever, or 30 years old, he's doing. It's just Harden arriving?
I think when he first got here on the Jimmy Butler team, he was closer to this player. And then as those guys left and he took on a more of an offensive role and allowed himself to become the like diet worse Carmelo Anthony, and dribbled into stuff and just like thinking about things and getting mad at the fans and all that stuff. And then he reverted back to just being a better version of the guy he was when he first got here. So I think because of the like proximity, it makes it feel like it's a bigger change just because it was this year and then a lot of last year, the same thing. But I think Doc really got to him and then like continues to commend him in like maybe a manipulative way to be like, I need to keep telling him he's doing great. I have to tell him he's the MVP of the series, which I can be convinced that Tobias is the MVP of the series.
Yeah, you could debate that he was certainly the most consistent of anybody.
Yeah, and I would and like him being this good and this consistent was incredibly important to this team. He did a really good job on Siakam. There were a couple times when Siakam beat him. Siakam's just a good player with like really impressive touch from a bunch of weird places on the floor. But I would like to see the Sixers as a whole, but also like the NBA. Like there's sometimes when you just allow a switch without any fight, and it's like you don't need to give the offense exactly what they want all the time. Like sometimes you can fight through. If it's a bad screen, you could be like, oh, I'm just gonna fight through this. So I sometimes I would like a little more communication, a little more fighting through it, and they don't do that much. But I mean, there's nobody on the team right now, even Maxey. Maybe I'm lying, but I'm fine to lie about Tobias. I think I have more confidence in Tobias going downhill in transition than anybody else on the team right now. Like he just looks like he's getting to his spots. He's being forceful. His handle is nice. He has some shake to his handle right now, not Shake Milton, like just general shake. Like he gave Achua jelly legs at one point, little in and out dribble, like hesitation. Like he just looks really good and really healthy and knows exactly what he's doing. And it allows him to play better defense, allows him to go after defensive rebounds a little bit more. He was excellent. He was just excellent. And I'm 8 threes in a closeout game, 19 and 11 plus 29, like got his hands in there. I'm genuinely proud of him. Like I want him to know that. Like we as a fan base, like because the Sixers, like we got on him so much. He's never gotten an MVP chant. He's had to be at the line during a B-ball Paul chant. Like he deserves to know. Like I hope someone is telling Tobias, like everybody's so happy for you and with you. Like we're all very pleased. Like we can be a little bit annoyed at Harden. We can be annoyed at Maxey for not, like even though he's young, for not like doing more. Embiid, effort level, whatever. Danny does Danny, Matisse, whatever. The bench is the bench. But like. I think Tobias right now, just like I feel just unadulterated pride and happiness for him and in him. Like this was a great momentum. I hope he takes it with us into Miami going forward.
Mike, the chat is very upset that you suggest that Tobias might be better in transition than Maxey.
That's fine. I mean, he's obviously not like faster or anything, but like when it's one-on-one, Maxey does like, he goes up like 1-on-2 sometimes and fires up a couple loogies. Like he's obviously a better player, but I'm fine to lie for Tobias right now. He's earned it. He deserves me to pull the Doc Rivers and just be like, he's the best player on our team, maybe. And I don't care. I'm happy for him.
There was a moment in I think B-ball Paul's first run during the game tonight where Harden passed it to him in the lane and he was just fucking stunned. And it was at that moment that I was like, I fucking love this guy.
Yeah.
I love B-ball Paul. A title run would mean so much more with B-ball Paul playing meaningful minutes. I don't really remember from a critical standpoint how he played tonight, to be honest with you.
He was great.
Just know I love him. He had a steal, I think, at one point and a block, and I don't know.
He recorded no steals and no blocks, but it did happen, I believe. He blocked the shit out of.
Wasn't there like a steal near the sideline?
And they called a foul on him, which was just a foul because he was weird. Obviously,
there was an almost steal near the sideline. I don't know.
And by the way,
I love him.
I do need at least an acknowledgement from you. I said a couple podcasts ago that they should consider, especially without Matisse, putting B-ball Paul in for defense with Embiid sometimes.
With Embiid, yes.
And they did it for not only one possession, but it was actually 2 possessions because then Maxey or George Niang got called for an offensive foul on a Maxey transition drive. So they offense defense twice in a row. B-ball Paul.
Wow.
So that felt great.
You're asking for clout, begging for acknowledgement.
It's for as far as like the one meaningful minute, like that is, I take pride in those kinds of things, and I like when coaches do it, because it's like, I think sometimes they're a little just like, well, we're gonna play our guys, and you look at, obviously New Orleans lost tonight and it was a good game, but like there's something nice about just like playing to strengths, and sometimes when you just have your guys in all the time because like, well, these are our guys. You just like minimize. There's like a little advantages you're not capitalizing on. So B-ball Paul, it should have been just a regular block. It was a bad foul call. I object to it. But he was great. He was just screening and rolling really hard and starting to develop some chemistry with Harden, like you said. He's just good, man. He's weird. He's a +5, 9 and 4 in 12 minutes. Like the Sixers winning the non-Embiid minutes is just massive. And so, and we got a B-ball Paul moment where, I don't know if you saw this or if you had left by that point, but Tobias at one point fell at the end of the game. He like slipped and fell or something on a foul. And then B-ball Paul went to pick him up, like, and B-ball Paul also fell and just like fell on his butt right next to him. It was a really good, I would encourage you to find the clip. He's just a very odd, limsy man, and he's helping the Sixers advance in the playoffs, and Doc should be celebrated and jailed for both on equal parts for sticking with him and not giving it to him sooner.
The Limsey thing makes me, this is what happened with B-ball Paul. B-ball Paul is like a player who was on the Raptors, and we took him, but we put him through that thing in the fly where he went like into a different dimension, and it like fucked him up a little bit. So he's like a Raptors player that got all fucked up a little bit. And that's the bucket that I remember is that Embiid, the B-ball Paul Harden pick and roll where Harden threw that real sick pass that got him the ball, but he actually caught it and got it up there, and it was a nice bucket from B-ball Paul. It looks like the second round schedule, and God bless the NBA for giving us is out without times, but it looks like Sixers Heat tips off on Monday night.
Yeah.
Monday, Wednesday, Friday.
I think the first 6 games are all every other day, and then there's a gap if there's a game 7.
Yeah.
I also have to mention playoff career high for Jaden Springer. 4 points, including a big dunk. Tough finish. That's exciting. That's exciting for me. Yeah, you mentioned Korkmaz. Like, look, the rotation is shorter. I could see why you want to be like, let's see if we can get a little juice coming in. But like, you're playing against, and you don't have Matisse, you're playing against a team that has so many long athletes that are just crushing them on offensive glass and in transition sometimes, and just like getting to everything. And the solution of like, here's our secret weapon is Korkmaz.
Well, what else do we have?
I don't disagree.
Like, there's nothing. I certainly don't want to like defend Doc Rivers, but it's like there's no other players.
There's not a good answer, but this is not the right one. Also,
well, that's fair answer.
And I blame Daryl and the front office for not elevating Charlie Brown for at least like this. Like, you don't need DeAndre Jordan and Paul Millsap there. Like, there's just no reason for both DeAndre Jordan and Paul Millsap to be like veteran presence. Elevate Charlie Brown, who could actually play a little bit maybe and at least come up with a loose ball here and there. I'm upset about it. But advance they did. We got 4 big points out of Jaden Springer in garbage time. B-ball Paul. I think B-ball Paul was a positive for the series. I have to look at it, but at least very close. Even if it's like within the margin of error, I'm so happy about it. So Miami is absolutely another B-ball Paul series, so don't even fucking think about it. Don't even think about it, DeAndre Jordan.
Well, and by the way, what's his name? Andre Drummond was a -25 in 58 minutes in the Nets versus Celtics series. So
totally. I mean, like, yeah, we should talk a little bit about that. But like, that is,
well,
like, Harden hasn't been as great as I wanted him to be since we got him. 100%. Ben didn't play. Seth is borderline, extremely targetable on one end of the court. And Andre Drummond, again, like, is not a playoff player. How many times do we need to see this kind of thing? B-Ball Paul, who is extremely inexperienced, super weird, doesn't have great hands, wants to like do dribble drives from like 30 feet out and like spin 6 times and throw up a weird shot that hits the backboard and goes in.
Is a Raptors player missing a chromosome?
Sure. He is the Sixers' best backup center option outside of Al Horford that they've ever had in Embiid's career. And it's not even close. Like, just simply because he can switch a little and he hit a couple threes that didn't matter. Like, it is abundantly clear that going forward, whether it's B-Ball Paul or Bassie with a 3-point shot, like, they need to prioritize not having the kind of trudging along Willie Cauley-Stein bullshit center that they've had behind Embiid for year after year after year after year. And B-Ball Paul is going to get better, but like, it'd be nice if it wasn't like, hey, you've played 6 meaningful NBA games in your career. Get in there. Save the season.
All right. Before we talk about the Heat, LL Pavorsky Jewelers, where Mike bought his engagement ring for his fiancée, Alyssa. LL Pavorsky Jewelers, the first sponsor of the Rights to Ricky Sanchez podcast. LL Pavorsky Jewelers, where over 260 Rights to Ricky Sanchez listeners have purchased engagement rings. LL Pavorsky Jewelers, where not only do you get jewelry, but you get free chocolate and water. That's right. LL Pavorsky Jewelers. Hey, look. I had an LL testimonial. Oh, it's so long, though.
Next time.
Yeah, we'll do it next time. So if you want to buy an engagement ring, and spring is a perfect time to propose, so is summer, so is fall, so is winter. But if you like to buy an engagement ring, you could do one of two things. You could wander into your local jewelry store. You go to Jewelers Row or something like that. You walk in there and they just fucking swarm you. And then they pressure you. And then you don't even know what they're saying, what they're not saying. Is this a good ring? Is it not a good ring? They just want the sale. LL wants to be your friend. And that's a good thing and a bad thing. The good thing is it means he is not going to pressure you. The good thing is it means he is going to be honest. The good thing is it means he's going to give you attention. The bad thing is it means you're going to hear from him for the rest of your life. It's a fair trade, I think. If you want to buy an engagement ring from LL Pavorsky and you can't go anywhere else, you have to make an appointment. Don't have to. You could just wander up, I guess. But if you make an appointment, then when you walk in there, he knows more about what you want, can really treat you the right way. 215-627-2252 is the phone number. I know you don't like making phone calls, so send him an email. lee@llpavorsky.com. What? You're some millennial? You don't even send fucking emails? You can tweet at him, @LLPavorsky. You don't like that? Go to his TikTok. I'm just kidding. There's no TikTok. There's a reason the guy's been in business for over 30 years at 707 Walnut. He's a real fucking dude, and I love him to death. He always contributes to our charities, Providence Animal Center, Coded by Kids, LL Pavorsky Jewelers.
Share your meaningful moments with LL Pavorsky Jewelers.
All right. So Sixers face the Heat. Jimmy Butler. Now, of course, it is a big thing to face Jimmy Butler. Without Ben, it does lose some of that luster, I think, for sure. The Heat are an interesting team as they are the number 1 seed. As seems to happen in the NBA quite recently over the last several years, a number 1 seed that does not quite get the respect, odds-wise or even, audience-wise, of the team that nobody thinks they were the favorite coming in. Nobody thinks they're the favorite now. I think they'd probably be third of the 4 remaining teams in the East to come out of the East, obviously behind the Bucks, behind the Celtics.
Do you think the Sixers are the 4th favorite right now?
Yeah, I mean, I'll look at the odds going into this game. They were behind the Heat to win the title.
I bet it's pretty close. It's probably Celtics first. And
it wasn't to win the title. It wasn't.
As far as the Eastern Conference goes, I would guess like Celtics plus 250, Bucks plus 350, Heat for 400, Sixers 425. My
So,
guess.
so the Sixers, the Heat to win the series are minus 155. The Sixers are plus 135. To win the conference, the Celtics are plus 125. The Heat are plus 215.
125.
Yeah.
Wow. No,
The Heat are plus 215. The Bucks are plus 360, and the Sixers are plus 500.
Okay, I was in
So-
the ballpark, but yeah, I'm surprised that they have the Bucks that low. I guess without Middleton, that is adjusted for them. But I mean, Boston
And they have
really
to play
good.
the Celtics, remember.
Yeah.
So that factors into it. You know what I mean? Like they're playing a harder team in this round. So anyway, they're an interesting team in that like they have a lot of effective offensive players. Obviously, Butler is effective on offense. Obviously, Bam Adebayo is effective on Tyler Hero, effective on offense. Duncan Robinson, effective on offense. But they're not like they don't have a lot of like creation. I guess Kyle Lowry, obviously effective, but there's not a lot that scares you. I think as you defend them, there's not a lot of speed offensively. I don't think they're particularly dynamic. But they just beat the Hawks 4-1. They closed them out without Kyle Lowry or Jimmy Butler.
Yeah.
They're going to be fucking tough. You know what I mean? And they really only have one exploitable player defensively, and that's Hero.
Duncan Robinson.
Exploitable, you think? Not in the same way
yeah.
that Hero.
Yeah.
You think?
Absolutely.
Okay. So I think the odds are about right. I think if Embiid were healthy, I think the Sixers would be a favorite.
Well, Kyle
it's a
Lowry
tough
and Jimmy Butler
series.
are also not healthy. So
Yes.
it's an interesting situation. I like Embiid. It seems like a Bam Embiid matchup is Bam's a really, really good player, but Bam is not like much faster than Embiid. He's certainly not stronger, and he's significantly shorter. So like usually he has like a couple advantages on guys, and he's not a jump shooter. The biggest thing for that Embiid struggles with is like bigs that have to stretch him out, and he's going to be able to stay inside and protect the rim against all those guys. Bam, or I mean, maybe they play Dedmon more in the series to make it hard for him. But I think they do have more guys on defense that Harden and or Maxey will go after in Hero and Robinson. Oladipo played well in the Hawks series, but I don't trust him as a defender overall. But they certainly have dogs and guys that are going to play their ass off, like the Raptors did. PJ Tucker is very physical. It's going to be tough I guess I would bet he's on Harden for a little bit, depending on if Lowry is there. Defensively, they're very good. They're a very good defensive team.
Mm-hmm.
I'm sure they're going to shut some things down. I'm sure they're going to make it hard on Embiid.
It's going to be
I think
an
the Sixers,
ugly series, by the way.
If they have the four guys that their four main options. If Tobias plays like he has this series, he's going to get a lot of good chances. If Harden looks like he did tonight, then like feeling really good. Maxey got to keep turning the corner and blowing by guys because Jimmy and PJ and Lowry like cannot keep up with Maxey laterally at all. One of the Martin twins, I always forget which one it is, Caleb or Cody. I think it's Caleb. I think they have Caleb. Yeah. Caleb Martin is good, and I would love him to be on the Sixers, the kind of like 6'7" wing type that's just like plays hard, can shoot a little bit, and defends hard. But the thing that you feel pretty good about is that unlike Toronto, a lot of Miami's best defensive players are not good offensive players, or at least good shooters. And a lot of Miami's best shooters are not great defensive players. So they have a couple of like one-way guys that you feel like, okay, one way or the other will either have an advantage or we won't be, we can hide guys on them for us on the defensive end. So it's interesting. I think that they're certainly the top tier talent, better team than Toronto, but I think in some ways they're a better matchup for the Sixers.
Yeah, I mean, they're not as chaotic, like defensively. I don't think they'll cause the same chaos. They're just tougher, like I think this Miami team is what the Miami Heat sort of purport to be all the time, is what this team actually is. You know, I don't think they're a title team in any way, but they're certainly a really good team. You know, you mentioned neither Lowry nor Butler were 100%. Now Lowry obviously has the hamstring thing. The Butler thing was weird as it came out of nowhere. Like the knee soreness thing came out of nowhere. And I don't think it was my first instinct was, well, they think they can beat the Heat without him or beat the Hawks without him and close it out. But that doesn't really track to me. So I wonder how hurt he is. Odds don't indicate. They think. I wonder what the line. What do you think the line on the first game is?
On
DraftKings Sportsbook, of course.
On DraftKings Sportsbook, I would say the line is Heat minus 140.
I mean the
line Heat 2.5
spread. It's Heat 4.5.
4.5. Okay.
Yeah. So there you go. The Celtics are 5-point favorites over the Bucks.
That's going to be interesting. It's going to be a good series. I'm excited
That's
to watch.
fucking crazy, man.
Part of me wishes that the Sixers weren't in the playoffs so I could just enjoy myself and not have to worry about. I exhaled for like 30 straight minutes today. It was really very comforting feeling finally. But it's not going to be. This isn't going to be a fun series either. Nothing's fun. We're not here to have fun. Okay?
Fun.
We're here to be miserable and hopefully scrape out some fucking wins.
Yeah, have an L in there, or maybe say something that comes back to haunt us later on.
Totally. Everything. Absolutely everything. Gabe Vincent's going to have a big series against us. He's going to be Chris Boucher. Dedmon is going to be Chris Boucher. Max Strus, I fucking love Max Strus. Max Strus and B-Ball Paul went to college together.
Really?
About that. At DePaul, yeah. B-Ball.
Did we ever...
B-Ball Paul went to DePaul, and we talk about him as B-Ball Paul a lot, but like I don't think it comes up enough that he also went to DePaul.
Yeah. It's like New Orleans was drafted
basketball program
by New Orleans.
That's right. It's very similar to that.
Mm-hmm.
So it's interesting. It's going to be an interesting series. I feel weirdly good about it, which makes me feel bad about it. But Embiid getting the Raptors monkey off his back feels great. Mm-hmm. Now we have to, the next emotional barrier that he needs to overcome is Jimmy. And I would also add Kyle Lowry, who is obviously instrumental in that Raptor series. So that's 2 for 1. Everything is going to be emotional. Spoelstra is going to be a dickhead. It's going to be if I was not a Sixers fan, I would be excited to watch this series. But as a Sixers fan, I think I'm just going to be just throwing out the whole time.
You got to make
feel
a
good
pick.
about it, which makes me feel bad about it.
Heat and 7, is that your pick? You might as well.
Oh, yes. Hedge pick, Heat and 7. Real pick, Sixers and 6.
So I did pick.
Delete this if anyone thinks that I should pick the Heat again. I don't care. I'll pick the Heat. I don't give a shit.
I did pick because I had to. I did pick Sixers and 6 in this series, but I don't know how much I actually believed it. Probably 51%. I'm gonna pick Heat.
I think the difference. The thing that I'll say about both Harden and Embiid, and maybe Doc, like so much of their motivation level is dependent on their opponent. And I think that they didn't respect Atlanta last year. They always thought that they were just going to win that series. And obviously Harden wasn't here, but like they always thought that we're going to win this. It's fine. This game's annoying, but whatever, we're going to win it. And I think that once they went up 3-0, they didn't respect Toronto. And then they, got ran a couple games and finally came back to play tonight. I think they're going to respect, especially Embiid and Jimmy. I think they're going to respect Miami the entire time. They're going to respect that they're the underdogs. They're going to respect Eric Spoelstra as a coach. And so I hope that no matter how long the series goes, every game the Sixers come to play and don't have like a sleepwalking type game. And if they don't do that, I think that they will win in 6 games.
If the Celtics win the title, does my "we're fucked" thing have a new life?
There were so many iterations past that. At least for the Sixers. We are. The Celtics are relatively still the same team, although they did steal a Sixers assistant coach to get there.
Who I suggested we fucking fire Brett Brown to keep, by the way, before the bubble. I did say we should keep Ime Udoka.
Based on what?
Because I said, go back to the pod. It was June.
No, I know.
2020.
I remember you saying that, but like, you're not out here scouting assistant coaches.
No, but none of us know anything. And all I knew, I don't remember what I said specifically. I didn't go and listen to it. My guess is I said something to the effect of other teams want him. Like, you have somebody, the best coaches are the Nick Nurse guys who are already there, right? Like these assistant coaches, where do you find them from? And he was there, and somebody else wanted him, and somebody else got him. Anyway, having
Maybe
Jason
Sam
Tatum,
Cassell's that guy for going forward.
and by the way, having Jason Tatum and Jaylen Brown and Marcus Smart probably helps too. But he did turn them around, and then
They had a really horrible start to the year for a long
Yeah.
time. There was like he was given like pretty like depressing quotes for a while, but yeah,
For
they
sure.
I mean, they've been on a heater for months now, so they're a really good team.
I'm gonna pick the Heat in 6.
Great.
As good as Embiid had a game tonight, I am skeptical that he is the Embiid we saw all year because of the thumb. I don't think they beat the Heat without a extraordinary series from Embiid, and I worry that he cannot give them an extraordinary series. So I would be happy to be wrong, but I'm gonna go ahead and pick the Heat in 6.
Yeah, I'll go Raptors in 7 again. Feel good about it. I think they're going to
So
This would be, I mean, again, it's worth setting the table here. The Sixers have made the conference finals. I'm 32 years old. The Sixers have made the conference finals once in my lifetime. It's been a long time, that one Iverson run, where they got to the finals. They have not been to the conference finals either before that, in the 10 years before that, or since. They need to win the series. I know that they're playing the number one team. I know that Jimmy is very good. Lowry's very good, although he's been banged up. Bam is incredible, and they have a ton of shooting, and they're really well coached, and they're just like a really together team. They play together most of the time, except for when Jimmy is fighting Udonis Haslem on the sidelines. I'm sure we'll get some weird Udonis Haslem violence in this game also.
I would fire Doc and hire Udonis Haslem, to be quite honest with you.
But they need to win this series. I know that they're not favored to do it, but they need to. They need to be, if Embiid is the best player in the world and Harden still has some whatever, juice of his prime left, and Maxey is going to be as good as we think he's going to be. He'll probably get pushed around a little bit this series, but I believe in him. Tobias playing at this level. I weirdly think it's going to be a big Matisse series because of, it'd be nice to have him on Lowry and Jimmy and Hero at times. Like you're going to want him out there, and finding a way to play him on offense and make him playable is a huge role for Doc, and I think Harden as well. But they need to win the series. They just need to be the better team. They need to win the series, because it would be embarrassing if this many years into Embiid's career, this many years into Embiid being this good, if he's never made a conference final still. We're just running out of excuses. So like hell of a bunch of great games against Toronto saved us from despair. He was excellent tonight. Excellent. Got to win the series. Got to get to the conference finals.
It's going to be a big Matisse series because we need somebody to fucking airball layups and.
Well, they really will need the defense. Toronto didn't have as many guys that can get where that Miami can get. Whether it's Duncan Robinson off ball, like he's going to be very needed. I wouldn't be surprised if he plays a lot. I mean, he's definitely going to play a lot more than he played in the Toronto series, but they're going to need him to be there and to be hitting a couple shots to keep him honest.
Before we go, the title odds from DraftKings Sportsbook. Warriors at plus 300. Suns also at plus 300. Celtics at plus 340. Heat at plus 600. Bucks
Good for
at
the
plus,
Pelicans. Good for Willie Green. Good for Willie Green. They played their asses off. I would love a couple of those guys. Give me a couple fucking play their ass off maniacs.
We were wrong about Ingram and Simmons, by the way. We were wrong about that.
Yeah, I mean, like, at this point,
we
you could
would
say you were wrong about, like, the 42nd pick in the draft in Simmons. Simmons is not playing. So, like, at this point, it's just, like, everybody. But, like, I think when Simmons was... If Simmons hadn't gone the way he's gone the last year plus, I think he would be still a better player than Ingram.
But he did.
But he's gotten better than I thought he would, for sure. But I still... defensively,
Bucks
still think
at plus 800. Yeah. I'm shocked at the Bucks odds. Grizzlies plus